Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, how are you guys?
Pretty good.
Good.
It's probably crazy for you, Michael.
A little bit crazy. We had I think a election that went very smoothly yesterday. We could talk about it more during the meeting, but
Yeah. Let's wait.
Yeah.
We're anxiously awaiting to see if we have any new reports.
Cool.
I have to show you my mug. Can you see it?
Nevertheless, she persisted.
Yeah.
There you go.
I found a picture from the 2012 campaign, and so I put it as my background.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, there he is. I thought you were just hanging with Barry.
This is when he was at, I think, the Virginia Beach Amphitheater outside.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I got to shake his hand on the line. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I had a great story about that. I was backstage for that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I remember seeing you and Diane there.
Let's see, we are admitting furiously here, fast and furious.
Cool. How are you doing, Mariana?
Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well.
Cool.
Just working on schoolwork. Got 3 presentations the students are making tomorrow, so
Oh, wow.
I got to read all the info too.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. Oh, I see the presentation is starting. I will be quiet. I'll mute myself.
Well, no. I'm just getting it on there.
Oh, okay.
Hamilton's here.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey.
Hi, Rachel.
Is that the doc? The doc has made it?
Oh, what a cute dog.
Oh, so cute.
Kenya, I'm here.
He's the special guest.
Nice. This is when we would be putting our sandwiches on our plates and hanging out. You know, it's too bad we can't do that yet.
Yep. Hamilton says, I like going to Zoom meetings.
Nice. Nice. That's very cool.
So, what time is it?
7:01.
Well, being the time Nazi, I should start, but I'll allow people to continue to come on in here.
Charlie,
Yes,
are
ma'am.
are you gonna put the video up afterwards?
Yeah, I got to hit the record button here so I can put it up on our YouTube channel. Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't have to take as many notes if you were.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, and hey, you guys, I just read again that Michael Cohen is going to be released. So whereas before he was going to be released and then somehow it was halted, well, now it's being released again. So that's good news, I guess, considering the fact that Paul Manafort is out, you know?
Yeah, I agree. If Manafort's out, I definitely want Cohen out, you know? And then maybe he can be farmed for some good intel against Trump.
Yes.
So, because he's no...
Hey, Ophelia, how you doing?
Not
Hey, Camille.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm reaching out.
Good to
I'm
see
hugging
you.
everybody.
Hello.
Yes,
So,
yes,
Charlie, are you the chair now?
Back.
Are you the new chair, Charlie?
Yeah, I am. You know, they lined everybody up and said, whoever wants to be chair, step forward, and everybody stepped back 1 step, and I was the only one left.
Linwood's like, sucker.
Linwood was great. I'm sure he's probably going to be on here. Linwood had a great 4-year run. He did wonderful stuff. But it's a volunteer
Great
gig
stuff
that,
as well.
is tough.
I was going to say, surely he isn't going to stop, just totally stop, right?
Well, he is going to appear in the presentation coming up. So,
There you go.
all right, let me see. We got a bunch of people on here. I suppose I should possibly start. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. I don't see too many more people coming in, but I'm sure they will. Good evening, everybody. How are you? Welcome to our May business meeting. We'll get started here in a second. We're going to go ahead and probably try and have everybody on mute. Down at the bottom of your screen, you got the little wave the hand thing. If we can, so we don't have a lot of static and feedback, try and raise your hand if you're ready to ask a question, because we have a great presentation tonight. First thing I want to do is advance the slide. We, of course, let Andrea in there. Hello, Councilwoman McClellan. So, and Damien, so on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, I pledge allegiance to the flag,
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
Indivisible.
indivisible, liberty and justice
for all. Now, who's going to step up and sing the national anthem? Only kidding. So we'll get started here. The first thing I wanted to do, well, let me go back. I didn't want to get to the sad part there. But I want everybody to see over here in the camera, my potato. They will come and get my potato and pry it from my cold, dead hands. I will not have the attack on my Virginia potatoes.
Wow.
Wait a minute, what the hell is going on with the potato? I don't get it.
Oh my God, old Trumpy yesterday. You didn't see that when he said he was going to compete for Virginia's electoral votes because we have a crazy governor trying to take away our guns and there will be nobody left to guard your potatoes.
You know, initially I thought that because you were on the keto thing, it was the starch.
That's
I
right.
hope
Well,
he
my
comes and
potato
wastes
is
some money
guarded,
here.
gosh
That
darn
would be
it.
great.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, Virginia,
He's not.
Idaho, we get these things confused.
Yeah. You see, up 3, up. I see. I got to admit everybody in. Hi, Eileen. Hi, Tim. You're coming in the. Let's come on in the room. There we go. Got some more people joining us. So the next thing we want to do is sad news here, as I'm admitting people. Some of you may or may not know that Randy Clear, Michael Candewall, and Jerry Collins each lost a member of the family. Randy's father, Michael's mother, and Jerry Collins' sister. So
Actually, it was my father.
Oh, what? I thought it was your mother. Well, I apologize, but
That's
anyway,
okay.
we
It's
wish
a lot
the
of sad
committee
news.
condolences to all 3. We know how tough it is.
And Randy, I'm so sorry to hear that too. And Jerry, I'm so sorry to hear.
So, all right, then let me get to the participant screen. I want to introduce, let me see. See what elected officials we have on here. Going through. Hey, Grant, Atoy. Hey, Jay, Nick, Phil Hernandez. How are you, my friend?
Hey, everybody.
We're going to give you a shout out to Phil Hernandez, our candidate in the 100th House. He's on the call. Thanks for joining us.
Nice to see your faces.
Let me see, Eileen. Somebody, Medina from all the way from Japan is on the call. I assume you're still in Japan. Dr. Gabriel, we'll get to her in a little bit, chair of the school board. Treasurer Dawn Hester, thank you for joining us. Hello. Delegate Guy, how you doing, Nancy? Assistant Commonwealth Commissioner of the Revenue, Blythe Scott is on. Councilwoman Andrew McClellan, how you doing? Going through here, I'm hoping I'm not going to miss anybody. And if I did, I apologize. So with that, you all get a round of applause. And we get around to, we recognize that. Now we go to our guest speaker. And I think everybody loves it when Rachel comes talk to our committee, whether we do it in person or online as it is. She doesn't need a lot of introduction to the Norfolk Committee.
Nope.
Let me let Rafi in the room. Because as I like to say, we knew Rachel before knowing Rachel was cool. She would come to our committee meetings and give us insights into her special election forecasting. She received a lot of accolades for nailing it back in 2018. Delegate Jay Jones is getting on the call. Hey, Jay. And since she has been our guest speaker, she has op-eds in the New York Times and Washington Post. She's been on Bill Maher. She's been on MSNBC and so many shows, and author of a wonderful book about the 2016 election, The Unprecedented Election. Get yourself a copy on Amazon. So we do need to make a living here, don't we? And, oh, Jay isn't in the room yet. So now Jay Jones, welcome Delegate Jones. So with that, I don't know if that was sufficient enough introduction, but it's going to have to do. And with that, Rachel, I'm going to switch slide PowerPoint so I can bring yours up.
There you go. So where do I make this bigger?
And all I got to do is be able to execute.
Glad I'm not in charge of that.
Yeah, hold it. Where'd you
Good
go?
to see all
Come
your
on.
faces.
There
Just
it
for that
is.
brief
Coming
moment,
up.
I get to see everybody. Hello, everybody. My original captive audience.
And there we
Great
go.
Teamsters backdrop there, buddy. Nick, that looks nice.
And away we go. All right, Dr. Bitecofer, tell us
That's me.
hopefully nothing but good news.
All right, you guys can see the slides?
No.
Oh, I didn't
No.
I didn't hit the share button. You know, I'm going to have this down one of these days.
Come on, Charlie.
Yeah,
Okay,
step
Boomer.
up my game. Let me see. Geez, hold on. Coming up.
2 months in, you think we got this figured out right now? It's all good.
You would think, wouldn't you? Where's my little window?
I have
my little
to admit,
window.
I'm loving seeing everybody.
Where's my window, my people? There you are. I found you.
There you go.
All right. Now
Toy, I agree.
Now
I just want to see everybody.
It was nice to see
God.
everyone.
It is.
We're almost there. Come on.
Except
Full
for Betty.
screen.
Wow.
Okay,
Lloyd,
hold
how
there.
you
Hold it.
doing?
Share screen. Bingo. And share. I apologize for that little technical difficulties there. But, you know,
All right.
if I was 21 years old, I had this technology done by now.
Yeah. You're doing fine. I've never had to do it yet. I'm a little nervous.
All right, there we go. Hopefully everybody's got the PowerPoint up there.
All righty, just to refresh everybody on the presidential forecast, which has been out for a long time, but was updated in March just as COVID-19 was washing into the American shores. And I did an update on my presidential forecast, which had come out originally in July of 2019 and had predicted that Biden would win the presidency. It had a 279 or 8 electoral college vote prediction at that time. In the update, or a Democrat would win the presidency rather, because we didn't know who the nominee would be. And in that forecast, I talked about, you know, it really doesn't matter too much who the nominee is, but if it's Bernie Sanders, that could be a problem. It could be different because the Democrats would probably freak out and run 2 campaign messages, one against Trump and then one against themselves, which would be bad. And the Republicans would be really apt at pushing the Democrats into tricking them to running against their own nominee. So when Biden sewed up the nomination after Super Tuesday, I did go forward and issue a post-nomination, you know, hey, it's definitely going to be Biden. It's certainly not going to be Sanders. And that's what this reflects, and I actually updated a couple of races in it. Probably most important is the upgrade of Arizona from toss-up to lean Democrat, because that added 11 more electoral college votes to the Democratic total, and made that Democratic, in the bag total move to 289. I really actually will say that I went back and forth a lot on whether to change Michigan and Pennsylvania to the next level up, which is likely Democrat, because they really are safer than Wisconsin. Wisconsin is of the three Midwest states that Trump won in that Sun Belt, aside from Iowa, but of the three, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin is the more iffy one. But I do feel a lot better having seen Ben Wilkler in action. I didn't know much about him particularly. I like everybody else was waiting with bated breath to see what would happen in that state Supreme Court race. And then after the race, I had heard his chief of staff reached out and said that he was a fan and wanted to talk. And so I was like, oh, well, shit, that's great news. And, through that and a couple of other meetings that I had that were not directly related to the race, but were with people that were involved, and I found out that they had run like some of the campaign stuff that I talk about. And so, as you guys know, even though the Republicans worked really hard to make it hard for people to vote in Wisconsin, the effort that they put in on base, Democratic propensity voters and independents that would vote Democrats, like far out for the election, getting them vote absentee ballots before they even knew there was going to be a pandemic, and really paid off huge dividends. And of course, that race also went by 9 points. So I do feel better about Wisconsin than I did, I think, when I put out this update. And of course, this update, I said that I couldn't really.
So you can watch it here.
I couldn't really tell much about whether the
And you
pandemic
can
is
hear it.
affect
Okay,
things.
hold on.
See,
Hold on for a second, Ray. I'm gonna go ahead and mute everybody.
Thanks.
We're getting some feedback. And then I will unmute you, and all right, hopefully that feedback has gone away.
Thanks, Charlie. So in the update, I also talked about the pandemic coming in, and that, in the old world, what that should mean is that the election was done. That there was Trump would not be able to win in this environment. I mean, it would be different if Trump was a competent, normal human being to which you might expect would handle the pandemic well, and, possibly make people who disliked him see him in a new light. But of course, you can take to the bank, even, way back then, that Trump was not going to do those things, and he was going to mismanage the pandemic and screw it up because it's Trump, right? So back in the old days, if the polarization stuff, like people say, oh, we're polarized, but I don't think that people understand, like, it really means something. Like, it's a thing and it means something. So, like, the way to illustrate it is in public opinion data of all the world leaders, and like a graph of all of them, you see, if you didn't know what the graph measured, you would see like everyone's approval rating in March takes like a big change. It either goes up a whole bunch or it goes down a little bit, but it changes. And like, if you didn't know even what happened, you would look at the data like on a test, and you would say, oh, some massive global event happened and it changed public opinion about all these world leaders. But then you would look closer and you'd be like, oh, except for one place. In America, public opinion stayed completely flat. So this thing that happened everywhere else in the world didn't happen in America. Well, we know that that's not the case. It didn't not only not happen here in America, it happened here worse in America than it happened almost anywhere else. And so, when we talk about polarization, it is a tangible, empirical, measurable sickness in the body politic, and it has actual effects. So, what we would expect to see in the fall is something like the 1980 election where Carter just got shellacked by Reagan if we didn't have polarization. And I argued it would not be likely that we would see a massive change in Trump's status. And although we are seeing just a little bit more, buffer for Biden, it's not a tremendous change. Certainly nothing that we would expect to see after policies that have killed 100,000 Americans and caused trillions and trillions of dollars. I mean, Great Depression like economic damage. So so anyway, that's the update. I have since put out the Congress forecast, and Charlie, you can hit the next slide.
Yep.
There you go. So we have the Senate. I put out my Senate. And
hold on, John. Hold on, John. What you do, somebody? Hold on.
It's
Okay.
this Galaxy
Say hello.
thing that's not on mute.
John, say hello.
And somebody's talking. There we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
I got everybody. I thought I mute all, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think they took themselves off mute. It's good now. All right. So anyway, with this Senate forecast, what we're looking at here is, I'm looking at the Senate races in this order. Colorado being the most attractive to flip, and I just don't see, how Gardner can hold on to that race. Virginia and Colorado are very similar. Highly college educated populations, demographic changes driving that transition there. So I just think Gardner's a dead man walking in terms of his seat. And I feel very strongly too that Mark Kelly is going to win the Arizona Senate race. Arizona is less demographically advanced in the transition as Colorado, but Mark Kelly adds an extra boost because he's Mark Kelly and he's got the NASA thing, he's got Gabby Giffords, and he's just a terrific candidate. So, those two things going together. And then Susan Collins, I think, is in real trouble. So I have her as lean Democrat. Those two were likely. She's as lean. And the reason is because, if she's to lose, it's a different type of losing going on there. In Arizona and Colorado, we're talking about demographic realignments and turnout surges for Democrats, and those things together moving against the Republican incumbents. In Maine, if Collins loses, it's really going to be a story of independent rejection. There's just so many independents in Maine. That's why all of the senators that are independents come from the Northeast. And in Maine, independents actually do matter. And, Collins has ridden for a long time this maverick, moderate image that really has taken a hit the last couple of years. And as long as Sarah Gideon, who's a very high quality challenger, ties Collins to Trump and, really hammers those, the Kavanaugh vote and the impeachment vote, I just don't see how Collins can dodge the bullet there. And then, so that's 3 seats, and Democrats would have enough for a majority there if they weren't going to probably lose the Alabama Senate seat that the lovely and wonderful Doug Jones holds. So, certainly it happened once. Could it happen again? I mean, stranger things have happened, especially because we're talking about an environment where 25% of Alabama may be unemployed on election day. So I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's pretty darn unlikely because Jeff Sessions, I mean, it's very difficult. So more likely than not, the Democrats have to net 4 seats to take control, and that would be with a tie-breaking vote as the president. So, you get 3 in Arizona, Colorado, and Maine, and then where's that 4th seat going to come from? The most likely place is that North Carolina Senate race. So you notice I have that also as lean Democratic. North Carolina was, not as far away along as it is now in its realignment towards Democrats, with that research triangle being very much like Northern Virginia for Virginia driving it back in 2008 when it went for Obama. And what drove it was that huge turnout. So if it gets huge turnout, it could go. But, at the end of the day, Democrats ultimately have 6 seats that they can use to get to that 4th seat. So that's pretty good odds. They could go through Iowa, which I have changed to toss up, though I haven't changed the rating on my map. I realized I forgot to do that. They have an Iowa seat. They have 2 seats in Georgia, which are going to be competitive. they have a Kansas seat. If Chris Kobach wins the nomination, that Kansas seat becomes as attractive for the 4 seat as that North Carolina seat. They have the Montana seat, which I think really, I mean, I don't use a lot of polling data to do my assessments, but Montana, I'll need some polling data to look at to get a sense of. I don't think, I don't think Mitch McConnell's going to be losing the Kentucky seat. And I don't think the Texas seat's going to be competitive, but you never know. Did I leave anything off there, Charlie? I don't think so. I got everybody right.
That's about it.
Yeah. All right. So move on to the House. Oh, go back. Yeah, there you go. Nope. There you go. My goal with the House was really to emphasize under my model that the Democrats would not be like losing the 40 seats and that really they'd be on offense to gain additional seats on top of the 40 seats in this cycle. 2022 will be a different story and we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, in 2020, they should be able to add to their House majority. There might be a 1 or 2 seat exception to that. But by and large, I would expect most of the gains from 2018 should be able to be maintained. And then I really put a laser focus on Texas because Texas is where they left seats on the table in 2018. A lot of that was they didn't understand how ripe the demographic realignment of college educated whites, white voters going on is. And then of course, Latino vote in Texas is constantly underutilized by Democrats who are still not quite figuring out how to win elections, like how to electioneer and who to focus on to win in the modern era. So when the election night happened, they were surprised when a lot of these Texas races without money and without what they considered good candidates got into the high 40s without spending, right? So, I'm actually not very long going to be making some nuanced ratings in those Texas House ratings, but I wanted to start off all of them at lean R because I really wanted the party to see all of these could go if they saw them as the opportunity, right? I don't know if that will help them see it that way. I don't know, but I wanted them to see it the way I see it for a little while. All right, go on, Charlie. And then here's Virginia, which of course is what you guys are most concerned with locally. And so here's one thing I want to point out about these 3 Virginia seats. I've put the that's funny that one's called safe and one's called likely. I think that 10th seat is really solidly good for Democrats. And I think that the 7th is more robust for Spanberger than Loria's seat is in the 2nd because Scott Taylor is the one that's going up against her and he's the former incumbent rather than what Spanberger is going to be facing a new opponent. It's Freitas, right? In the 7th, it's going to be Nick Freitas. Charlie?
Yep.
Yeah, right. So really that's most of the difference there. But I want to highlight this special election in California.
Can I, Rachel?
Yeah.
Just a question. You just said Freitas versus Taylor. What's your perspective on that?
Well, Scott Taylor's a former incumbent of the 2nd district.
Sure.
Freitas is just some no name that served in the House. So it's name.
He doesn't know how to get his paperwork in.
Who couldn't get his
I'm sorry.
paperwork.
So I'm thinking about Loyola. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the 2nd district, Taylor has run 3 campaigns there now. So he's got a whole campaign infrastructure built, and he's basically running an incumbent campaign as a challenger. Yeah. So that's a big difference. But I still think that Loria's got a good edge on it, but here's what it's going to come down to for both the 7th and the 2nd. I'm about ready to show you guys. Okay. So go back, Charlie, to the other slide, the new one. All right. So here's the California special election that happened last week on Tuesday. And here, if you were to go and like Google California special election 25th, and get the election results, you would see that this Republican guy came up with almost 55% of the vote. This is a district that Katie Hill, the Democrat, carried by almost 9 points in the 2018 cycle. So that's quite a swing, right? And for most places, because most states don't have party identification or party registration, we don't here in Virginia. This is how we would see an election outcome. This is all we would ever see. So we would look at this and we would say, wow, you know, damn, independents or swing voters really swung back hard against the Democrats in favor of the Republican here. And it must be because she was not a great candidate and she insulted his military service or something. Like you guys have heard the media diagnoses as to why Mike Garcia beat her, right? So but that would be it. That would be all that we could really know, like before the Bitecofer world came, about why. And I mean, that's how the Chuck Todds and the Steve Kornackis and the Dave Wassermans of the world would describe this loss. But because California, you know, a bunch of serendipity things, California is a party registration state. We had a completely vote by mail election because of the pandemic, and the California governor made the entire election not absentee. You could request a ballot by mail, but literally every voter in this district was mailed a ballot to vote for. So it was a mail ballot election, and that made everybody track the returns, and it made everybody go to the next slide, Charlie. It made everybody track the returns, and we could see things, like we knew things that we wouldn't know in other places. So we knew how many ballots were being returned by Democrats and how many were being returned by Republicans. And basically what it allowed was it made everybody see elections the way that I see elections, right? And so like when this data started coming in, and this big gap of turnout and participation opened up amongst Republicans, I looked at this and I knew Mike Garcia was going to win, and not only win, but win big, okay? Because it wasn't going to be a story. I mean, number one, the thing I see about independents is that their turnout collapsed compared to 2018. So it wasn't so much that independents, they voted, there's a fixed pool of them, they voted for the Democrat in 18 and now they're voting for the Republican. This big pool disappeared and now there's a small pool of independents, okay? And, you know, everybody in the country got to see the election the way I did. That 34% return rate, this is not the exact final number, but it's pretty close. That's what these districts all looked like in 2014 in those midterms when Republicans won all these races before they flipped to Democrats. And so, you know, my graphic on the right comes from my New Republic article where I show the difference in the California 25th district in between that 2014 and 2018 cycle where, you know, Democrats really, really increased their turnout and they come close to parity with the Republicans. And, you know, you don't see a 15 or a 14 point participation gap for Republicans, okay? So like at the end of the day, if you want to hold the 7th district and the 2nd district, even the 10th district eventually, you can't have a ballot return rate where Republicans are returning more ballots than Democrats by, you know, double digits. Because if you do, you're going to lose. And you can't have independents, you know, roll back their participation. These are basically independents that break Republican in favor of Republicans. The left-leaning independents disappeared. Those are the people that disappeared, right? So, you know, when I you know, I've been giving this lesson to you guys, especially for like 3 or 4 years now, but it was literally textbook. Like this is how my point is this, and I'm working hard using my national, like the you know, gains I've made in national ID to help, you know, the Democrats learn to do electioneering better, because every single district that they won, those 40 and maybe the handful they pick up in 2020, every single one of them are going to look like this in 2022 if the Democrats don't fix how they do electioneering. And they're going to lose all of those House seats because, you know, Republicans are going to turn out the Democrats. And when I say at the end of the day, what matters is the partisan distribution of the electorate. You need to have as many Democrats voting as you have Republicans, or at least come close. or you're going to lose. That's what I mean. Okay. And we saw like what it looked like. This is just like the 2010 and 2014 electorates in these competitive districts. So we really want to avoid, Democrats really want to avoid that problem. All right. That's it, I think.
All right. Perfect. Yeah, 34%. Let me start off, because we don't know what the future holds. How much of a downward pressure on voter turnout can pandemic voting be?
I don't know. All I know is that in this case, like all the elites that I spoke with, like were very dismissive about this race and dismissive about the candidate. I mean, you know, there was a sense like, okay, well, it doesn't matter because the race has to be rerun in the fall. And if that's true, like if they didn't care and they just blew it off and the campaign manager was for shit and they didn't really try and they lost like this, that's fine. I mean, it's stupid. It's like not what I would do if I was in charge of shit. but like, that's like at least not worrying. But if they gave it a good college try and they ended up with that, that's a problem, right? I mean, that's an oh shit moment right there. I don't know what it is because I don't know if people are blowing smoke up my ass or not when I try to find out. I'm being told it was a half-ass effort and there's a half-ass response, but I don't know for sure, you know? But I will tell you, like in the midterms of 2018, the overall turnout rate was in the 50s. And now it was back to 34, which is the 2014-2010 rate. And every single voter in the district was mailed a ballot, like an actual voting ballot. And that's how shitty the Democratic turnout was.
Carrie Buchanan.
Yes. Evening all. Rachel, has anybody tested some of the COVID-19 messaging? One of the things I'm really concerned about is how I'm seeing some people talk about COVID-19. One, there's a conspiracy that says it doesn't really exist. And then there is the other group that says you're infringing upon me. Sometimes those are the same. And so is there messaging that potentially goes in Trump's favor for this?
No, I mean, luckily, here's the thing. It could be, so like right now, the public opinion is hanging in there way better than I feared it might get once the elites in the Republican Party started to all message kind of like, this is no big deal. And like the cure can't be worse than the disease became their basic message. And I thought, well, shit, with elite signals, running from like public opinion moves from the top down. So elites tell voters how to feel, not the other way around, right? So I thought like, okay, it will hang in there in the 80s for a while, but after these Republican and right-leaning independents get used to this Republican messaging effort and they're seeing Kemp and DeSantis open their states, they're going to start to, fall in line basically. But so far, they're hanging in there a lot better than I thought that they would. And that's kind of giving me hope because like we're really talking about 15, 20%. And as long as it stays at 15 or 20%, that's pretty good. And, most particularly older voters are like, yeah, when you say cure is worse than the disease, you're talking about killing me, dude, and like that includes my own Trump voting parents have pick that part up, so I think that's kind of hopeful. And I'm raising money to run some surveys and B, trying to get access to some data, but like some of the things I want to track are those COVID like effects.
Right.
Okay. Carolyn DePalma.
Hi, everybody. So Rachel, one thing about Elaine, so I've got a Republican friend, not a Trump supporter, and Elaine's lawyer has been really good apparently about sending emails to her district, and he's mentioned how impressed he is with that and plans to vote for her. So what messaging do we need to be really promoting for her so that we can get her back?
I mean, it depends on who you're talking to, right? So, I mean, if you're talking to that guy, constituent services in the pandemic is probably a good message, right? If you're talking about trying to get, the make sure that the percent, and her district was an underperforming turnout district amongst Democrats. I mean, the Republican Party outperformed Democrats by more than, I think it was more than 10 points in CD2, which is why it was a nosebleed. I mean, it was a nail biter. I mean, like, it was a very close election in 2018. And one of the reasons it was, compared to, you know, Katie Porter's race, which had a lot of buffer in it, is because Republicans turned out Democrats, right? And, you know, it's important to remember that, like, you know, most people are not you and not us, and not only not us, but like very, very much not us. And what they need is they need motivation. So they have to feel like they have a stake, like they have to be told, hey, there's this election and your life literally depends on voting in it, you know, not like some arcane policy or something about Planned Parenthood funding. Like, it needs to be crisp and, you know, tied, you know, tying, you know, a lot of people don't know who the member of Congress is, frankly. So, like, there'll be Democrats suffer from ballot drop off much more than Republicans. So there'll be people who show up in the second who will vote for Biden and then leave that second race blank. You guys should really be focusing very hard on avoiding that. So, like, your GOTV and direct mail and voter education shit should be focused on, you know, fill out the whole ballot all the way down, every D. And the reason why is that every D, like, fights Trump.
You know, and I will let you know, Elaine's campaign manager and field organizer is on the call, so they're hearing you.
That's good.
Nick Jones.
Yes, Rachel, I'm glad you're here. A quick question. Do you think we're going to have better opportunities if it's going to be a full mail-in ballot election, or should we still try to go to the polls?
I think the very best thing that could happen is not to have a huge second wave pandemic and be where we're at now, or better, where the pandemic is but it's not like woo on fire. You know, I do worry about a second wave coming, a second shutdown. You know, I think that's I mean, that it's just uncertainty, right? Because, like, you know, people are like, well, how can you be certain? I'm certain because, you know, high turnout environment, Democrats are going to nail it. My forecasts are based on that certainty. If you take away certainty about who's going to turn out, who can vote, then my whole thing becomes uncertain, right? So you know, and I just don't know. I don't know what would happen if, say, we had a virus that mutated, became much more serious, like in the Spanish flu, and started to affect children, right? Like, you know what I mean? So and then, you know, just seeing the Democrats flop on that 25th, I mean, there's no reason to lose that race and to lose it, to see Republicans outperform them by 14 points. And then, you know, you guys have to, I just cannot possibly reiterate enough. You know, Caroline knows a Republican that's going to vote for Elaine. You know, they're out there. Most Republicans are not going to vote for Elaine. They're going to be voting for Scott Taylor, and they're going to show up in big numbers. And like you know, if you want to win the election, you guys have to turn out left-leaning independents and Democrats. And if you don't do that, she will lose. Like, she will lose. And you know, I don't know. I'm trying to, like, find this campaign manager out in California 25th, because I'm convinced, actually, what the problem is that they thought that they could get Republicans to vote for them because of how shit show Trump is. And they spent what little resources they did have largely reaching out to those people. And, you know, this is, I mean, that data unequivocally proves that when Republican suburban voters showed up, they did not vote for the Democrat. They voted for the Republican.
All right, got time for one more. Mariana White.
Well, I just had a question about stamps on the return envelope. Just a very practical type of thing. A lot of people don't have stamps at home. So I would like to make sure that we do put stamps on the return envelopes so that if you send out ballots to people,
yeah, that's a great idea.
They can get them back in without having to go somewhere to get them.
Yeah, I will say, like, the Florida GOP is really like the gold standard on how to run a remote election. They've been doing it for years, and they really pioneered it, which is like somebody should tell Trump that he's, like, screwing himself in Florida every time he comes after remote mail voting, because that's how the Florida GOP has won in Florida without having they're a minority and have been a minority party in Florida for a long, long time, but they always win elections. And one of the reasons is the Florida GOP sends every Florida Republican a absentee ballot application with directions on how to fill it out and an envelope with a stamp to mail it back, right? Like, I mean, that's the kind of shit you guys need to bring to bear. And I think like no one has more riding on Joe Biden's picks than people like Elaine, who have these heavy African-American populations, right? And since you have her campaign manager, let me just tell you, those districts, those House and Senate races that they left on the table in 2019 in the state legislative races, I told them for like 3 months before the race, you are going to underperform black voter turnout in those Hampton Road races, and you're going to drop those 2 easily won state Senate races if you do not focus on turnout of black voters and Democratic voters in those races. You know, somebody please listen to me. Somebody please listen to me. No one will listen to me. And what happened down there? So you guys know that if you don't turn out those voters, you can drop those races, because it just happened last year.
All right, well, you know, let me ask the final question then. You got a favorite for Joe Biden's?
Yes, somebody who will help really pull up young people and voters of color, their turnout, especially for people like Elaine. I mean, it's going to come down to those, you know, those voters showing up for her. So, you know, no one has more riding, I think, on Biden's pick than people like Elaine. She's got so much riding on this pick. It needs to be Kamala Harris or Stacey Abrams, Val Deming, somebody, just not Amy Klobuchar. God.
Right. All right. I keep telling people I'm going to make it Biden Obama until it's never going to happen, but that's all right.
I can tell you this: if he picks Klobuchar, and I have a New York Times op-ed coming out on this in a couple of days, like that ought to be a day where the campaign office team for Elaine Luria meets and has an oh shit moment about turnout.
All right. All right. Well, as always, it's great. I think recapping, you got Joe Biden right now at a floor of 278, Senate about 50-48 with 2 toss-ups. You didn't even mention Kansas. We gotta, if they nominate
Kobash.
Crazy Kobash, Kansas.
I said it would be as competitive as North Carolina.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right, we just need to do our bit here in Norfolk.
Yeah,
right, Rachel,
even though those races, I'll close with this. Everywhere on my forecast ratings that's marked safe or lean or likely Democrat, it's because it makes the assumption that there'll be a full court press, massive spending. It's not like, oh, these things are safe, you don't need to compete for them. So it's important to understand that.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right, bye.
Feel free to stay on if you'd like. I mean, we got the mundane.
I'm sorry. I've got so much stuff going on.
I understand.
I got to jet out and say, you know.
So, well, let me ask you, who do you like better as a host, me or Bill Maher? Only kidding.
Oh, Charlie, that's easy. You know, Bill's gotten a little stuffy in his old age.
Well, hey, I would have flown you to Norfolk first class if that was the option, just like
I gotta say that was some nice, and especially because it was pandemic, so that was almost an empty airplane, and I was in first class. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.
All right. All right. Now let me see if I can get this screen back on here. All right.
Charlie?
Yes.
Charlie, you missed introducing our chair of the school board. She's attending.
I did it. I mentioned Nicole.
Oh, okay. I somehow did not hear that, so
Yeah,
I can.
I did, and all right. Barbara, minutes.
They were distributed. That's
All right. If there's, if there are, everybody's got them, or if anybody has a problem, let us know. If not, we will accept them without objection. Do I hear any objections? Raise your hand or make it. All right. They're approved. Grant, treasurer's report.
All right. So we had a pretty light month for the month of April. So if you look at the dates there, amount of money, we had one deposit, $57.63, and then one withdrawal that was a total of $14.99. That was for our Zoom Premium account. Some of the other information that we have there, total for dues that we collected over the month of April, it was 4 individuals' dues, totaling $80, and then an in-kind donation for our social media advertising for $97.90. Again, expenses, almost $15, again, to Zoom. And then our fees to ActBlue was just 1, and that was 79 cents. So everything works good on the bank account and then the reporting to the SBE. And so we should be good to go there.
All right. Again, if I don't hear any objections, we're going to accept them as delivered. 3, 2, 1. Accepted. Thanks, Grant.
Yep.
I'm just going to share report is I have a slide that's coming up. Atoy, the area chairs, and I, we have to step up our game a little bit. We have too many precincts without captains, so we're going to really put on full court press. I'm going to bring that up. Well, maybe I'll do it now that I'm talking about it. There we go. As you can see, we have our 6 area chairs in blue: Bob, Kerry, Kim, Larry, Nick, Tony. The red precincts are ones we are going to be actively recruiting for precinct captains because, as I said, we have to turn the Norfolk Committee into a grassroots juggernaut heading into November. So if anybody's on the call, and by the way, to all the people who maybe are our first-time visitors, welcome. We hope you join our committee and get active in our operations. But as you can see, we have about half, maybe a little over half of the precincts. So, and maybe we've been sitting a little bit in our quarantine situation, but we're going to try and pick that up. So if you know anybody in any of these precincts who may want to step up and do the business of organizing the precinct, meeting voters, and this, that, and the other thing, please let us know. But we're going to be getting in touch with those people very, very soon. One of the things I think we're going to start doing, because the precinct operation plan that I had was having socials at the precinct level, inviting people over, wine and cheese, this, that, and the other thing, and that has held us back. So I may pick a few precincts, and we may test drive a few online cocktail parties or wine and cheese parties, reaching out to strong Democrats and active Democrats, and see if we can just maybe have precinct-wide wine and cheese parties. So we're going to test drive a few of those till hopefully we get freed up and we can start seeing people face-to-face again. That's what we're hoping for. Atoy, you got anything as a vice chair that you want to kick in? You on there, Atoy? All right.
Hey, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
Back to your thing about the precincts.
Yes, Tim.
I think I'm pretty much convinced that this pandemic is not going to be gone by November.
Yeah.
That being said, I believe that makes block captains all that much more important, because block captains can be out in the backyard and talk to people across the fence without having to knock doors, and can create that personal connection, which I feel is oh so important in elections.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to try to recruit and organize on a much smaller level so that we can communicate with people on that smaller level. And I think that, that's just my thought. So
no, Tim, you and I are in the
are in agreement. And
I
will be.
We just have to implement it. Yeah, we have to execute it.
And I will be reaching out to all of the, as you all know, area chairs. We will be reaching out later this week and the beginning of next week for the most part, because in June, we need to get together, I mean, even if it's just on Zoom, to start basically, zeroing in on our game plan as we had discussed previously. So like I said, expect within the next week or so that we will be getting together to go over a more intricate game plan on how we're going to handle everyone's district.
Right. And I hopefully, and I'll finish my chair's report with this. We have been active in social media. Hopefully there are people maybe on this call who have come to us because we're on their Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram account. We're going to continue to try and elevate our presence in the city of Norfolk through social media. Some of our posts are great. We have hundreds of interactions on some of our posts. I think a lot of people, like the one where praising the Obama commencement speech, if you've seen it. By the way, if you're on Facebook and you haven't liked our page, please do. That way, everything we post will show up in your feeds. So that's about it for the chair's report. Moving into committees. Randy, we got a new member?
Yes, we have one new associate member who we voted on at the last executive meeting. That was Willie Randall. I just want to mention, since we're doing a lot of things online, to note that the membership form is available as a PDF on the committee website, norfolkdemocrats.org. You can download it from there, fill it out, either mail it back or photograph or image it and send it to, the website, the committee Gmail account.
Right.
As long as there's a signature on it, it'll be good.
That's right. And we're only asking for a meager $20 dues to join the committee. So we'd love to have you. But all right, thank you. So yeah,
Charlie, can I ask a question? This is Arlene.
Hi, Arlene.
Back on the screen where you had the precincts and the precinct captains.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that where it was showing red, that meant that they did not have a precinct captain.
Those are the ones we don't have captains, correct?
Okay, so what's going on with Rosemont?
Like a typo.
It's a typo. You're in black.
I'm in black, yeah, but Rosemont is in red.
Yeah,
so.
you're right. Yeah, okay. My fault. As you can see, your name is there, so that's just a color typo.
Oh, I just thought you wanted a second person in there or something.
No. That's me.
I'm okay.
You know what, Camille? I did the same thing for Camille. I'm just noticing that out over there.
I'm sorry.
So Camille, I apologize there.
This is Nick Jones.
If the name is there with the precinct, it's a captain.
Okay.
So we can't replace you, Arlene.
I sure hope not right now anyway. It's
but
still,
hey,
it's still,
by the way, Arlene,
this November is too important.
Yeah. We've had a number of people sign up on our email list from Rosemont, so we got a few potential volunteers.
Great.
I get excited. I go into the MailChimp account, and every time I see 3, 4, 5 new people that have signed up on the list, I get excited that our numbers are growing, and maybe the energy and the enthusiasm for November is starting to grow as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Megan, if you're on the call, we kind of talked. There's not a lot of actual outreach we're able to do right now.
No, but there is more than people think. I've been doing a lot sort of online. And so for those who are having, I just wanted to make a request, those of you who are having Civic League meetings by Zoom or anything, and you want someone to come, for instance, from the party, just to kind of talk about outreach, if that's something that your Civic League is interested in, please send me an email. I will go ahead and do that. I have linked up with Military Families for Biden. They actually provide a lot of information about various events. I've been sending those on to Charlie to put on the website or send out as he sees fit. I've also made contact with the Small Business Caucus, the Democratic Small Business Caucus. They are doing a lot. And for instance, Carrie, you had a question earlier about COVID equity. They've got, and I forwarded this on to Charlie as well, they're having tomorrow a town hall panel or a panelist by Zoom talking about COVID equity in Virginia. It's a lot of medical providers that would be interested. So there are things we just, you know, if you're part of a group and they are having these kinds of social interfaces, just let us know. We just can't do the outreach in terms of the passing out the cards and the information, but we can still get it out there.
Right. All right. I don't know. Don't remember if Dave is on the call, but we have not didn't have any resolutions activity. Dave, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. Betty, what do you got? I know we were busy leading up to the May elections.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. We had a very successful absentee voting drive these past few weeks. As you can see, that there was a long delay in getting the results in for the Super Ward 7. And some of the efforts, most of the efforts went towards senior facilities. I contacted the apartment managers and email absentee ballots that were sent to me through Stephanie Owls. I do want the committee to personally send a thank you to Stephanie Owls for facilitating a virtual voting absentee information forum for us. And that was basically to help first-time voters like myself who had never voted absentee. I've always voted in person, and so has most of us on the committee. So, you know, I would like to send something to her formally to thank her for her
yes, yeah,
taking time that evening to join us.
I did a lot of envelope stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So going forward, I would like to do more outreach, you know, more than just the 5 senior facilities that I reached out to. I would like to join with organizations like I did with the past couple of weeks, SAG, Seniors Aging Gracefully. They are preparing meals weekly for seniors. That's spearheaded by Sarah Peoples-Perry. And what I did is I took ballots and stuck them inside of the lunch bags, and they were distributed with those meals. So efforts like that, joining organizations like that, I will be working along with you, Megan. Again, we're gonna do some teamwork to get it done.
Good.
Like I said, we are, you know, experiencing this pandemic, but there are still opportunities to reach out.
All right, you do great stuff. All right, thank you, Betty. And Carolyn, kind of the same with Megan. We don't have a lot of events on the horizon. We have some wishes and hopes and desires depending on COVID.
Right. So if anybody can think, we're trying to think of some ways to do this. One suggestion, unfortunately, we can't do. We thought, even a tailgate or something, but we're not able to do that yet. I believe that was a Toys idea, and maybe at some point, if things improve enough, there might be some ideas. If anybody has any ideas, we can of course do some virtual happy hours or some other things maybe we can think of. We're really open to suggestions. And also, one thing I wanted to say about the stamps and the absentee absentee ballot voting, I tore my house apart looking for 2 stamps to put on 2 ballots. So I think that fortunately I was able to find some, but it was last minute. We thought about the last minute, and stamps is a great idea.
Hey, Carrie, you had a question?
Yes, actually, it was for Betty and Megan. If in your reaching out to the military families for Biden, you might want to really talk to them about registration of the spouses. It depends. All the rules always change on whether or not the spouses are residents of the state they're residing in right now, or if it retains onto the former place or the place they really call home. So if you can, I would reach out to them, because either they're going to be doing absentee, or if they're registered into Virginia, then it would be really a great thing for us to try and increase that group.
They've been doing a lot of spouse education that I've seen their postings, and they've got a sort of a tutorial on YouTube, and that's sort of one of their constant posts, Carrie, because that's a really good point. But that's one of those things that they are seeming to, like, every other day post something about, hey, we know this is confusing, this is the information, kind of thing.
Hey, I have a question for Barbara Clear and Michael Candwell. Now, my basic question is, typically for an election like this, you know, for mayor and school board and city council, we would consider that an off year, you know, like one of those off elections where you don't get much turnout anyway. My question is, based on this COVID thing, how many, would you say that we had the same number of people roundabout that voted in person as well as absentee, adding those together, as it would be in comparison to previous years? I mean, was it up this year because more people did absentee, or was it down because of people not wanting to go to the precinct? I mean, what's your thought?
Yeah, that's coming
Michael,
up.
I have those. Is it coming up? Because I have all the statistics.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
All I had to do was wait.
It's coming up on the agenda. Coming up on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
All
We'll
right.
talk about that
Old
later.
business, new business. Veronica, you're up. You still on, Veronica?
Hey everyone, this is Medea. I'm actually stepping in for Veronica.
Hey, Medea, you still in Japan?
I am still in Japan, yes. Hello everybody. It is 9 a.m. in Japan right now, and my work day started at 3 a.m. So I'm coming to the end of my work day, just like you guys. So I'm kind of synced in with East Coast hours. And I also have a rough timeline for when I will be in the district, and I'm probably arriving by the middle of June. So hopefully I'll be in Virginia Beach in the same time zone as you all soon.
Oh, wow, good.
So yeah, just a quick campaign update. Thanks so much for having us on the call. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Medea. I am the field director for Elaine Loria's campaign. So I'm the one who's going to be activating, reactivating volunteers, building a field program, and executing it. And I will say I am very enthusiastic about how we're going to do this election. I do think that it is a benefit that we are up against the opponent that we are up against. I don't think his fraud scandals or behavior has gone away just because he's been an incumbent before. So if he does end up being the nominee, I think it only benefits us. I also think that the fact that the Congresswoman has gotten so much done in her time in office, including being the third most effective person in Congress, according to GovTrack, are all things that are going to help us when we are running a re-election campaign. But just to talk a little bit about what we're doing for field, we have to do field without being able to be in the field, which is of course a challenge during the pandemic. But one of the ways that we are addressing that is by moving everything that we have been doing offline into an online sphere. So we have community check-in calls, which are phone banks that everyone can join. We are calling people in the district, checking in with them during the pandemic, sending them to the resources that they may possibly need. That can be, sending them to the official district offices. That can be sending them to a specific hotline or food bank. But of course, we're also letting them know about upcoming volunteer opportunities if they are healthy and happy and in a place where they feel like they can volunteer. We are doing text banking and texting voter registration. So it's a combination of texting voters, but it's also relational organizing, which is being thrown around a lot, but basically one way to do that is, and then whether all the people in your phone are registered to vote or not. and where. So if you do notice that you have a neighbor who now lives here, but their voter registration still shows their old address, they might need to update it. It could be that you have someone who's registered to vote, but hasn't voted in the last couple of elections, and you'll be able to reach out to them. So there's a lot of helpful things that you can do. I'm going to be sending in the chat message now, just a general link that goes out to everyone, which is all our upcoming events. So when you click on that, you'll be able to see our text banks, our phone banks, other things we're doing. I know you guys were just talking about getting military spouses involved. I'm a military spouse myself. I'm a Navy wife. That's the reason why I'm in Japan right now, is my husband is stationed on a minesweeper here. And so this is, of course, something very close to my heart. And one of the events that we have planned is on May 22nd, so coming right up, we have a military spouses information event where we're gonna go over these rules for, you know, how do you register to vote? Can you vote here? But also things like the Hatch Act. You know, a lot of spouses navigate this gray zone. Can we be involved in politics when our husband is active duty or our wife is active duty? And we are going to be answering those questions. There'll be me and Melissa Peck from Virginia Beach Dems. We're both spouses. We'll be on the call to clarify some of those things. So if you do know spouses in the district who are interested in learning more, please send them our way for that event. If it goes well, we can, you know, copy it and continue to have it once a month or something like that. Other than that, you know, we have plenty of fun events coming up, meet and greet with the Congresswoman. We are onboarding interns, new staff, and we're growing from a one-man show of me to a team of 11 people in just a week. So you're going to be seeing a lot more stuff coming your way from the campaign as well. But if you're interested in getting involved, if there's anything I can answer for you, anything you'd like to know about what we're doing campaign-wise, please reach out. I'm always looking for good ideas, for more help. And of course, you know, the more people we can mobilize, the better. We have about 130 active volunteers right now who are doing events with us. So we are in a good place, I think.
Good.
Well, I have a curiosity question, Medea. And it's really not about the Luria campaign, so I'm sorry about that. But my curiosity question is, since you are in Japan, what are folks in Japan saying about this president that we currently have?
Of course, yeah. So let's get a lighthearted question. A military family, so the norm is that you don't really talk politics here, right? I already give my husband plenty of headache by insisting of being this involved in politics when he has the job he has and he has to work for whoever is commander-in-chief. Right. So it's not really something that gets brought up a lot, but I will say, you know, the military typically leans the more conservative direction, so they will be very loyal to the party. I do see a couple of Trump bumper stickers on base, but I will also say that in more private conversations, especially among officers, especially after what happened with on the Roosevelt and with the firing and this and that of the captain, you know, that's definitely something that got people paying attention. It's definitely something that got people feeling unsafe to go through their chain of command to report what could be a risk for their guys, you know. So I think, you know, that has really changed something. I think it was a reminder that all politics is personal. And even though it seems like it's far away and over there in DC, it ends up coming right back and affecting you in your day-to-day life, in the Navy, in the service, as a family member. So that makes me feel good that we can do this. I've also had plenty of, you know, spouses or people come over to me kind of hush hush on the side and saying, it's really exciting what you're doing, you know, you're working for these Democratic candidates, or, oh, I can't believe you're going to Norfolk. I think it's cool. She's a Navy commander. So, you know, I'm, you know, just anecdotal evidence that people are excited about this and people do want to see the continuation of the blue wave. So that makes me feel positive.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Medea. And say hello to Thursday morning for us. We'll catch up to you in a bit.
Will do. Goodbye from the future.
Yeah. Ryan Jackson, you on the call? Anything with Mark Warner?
Yes, thank you, Charlie. Thank you for inviting me to be on the call. Fortunately, Senator Warner couldn't join the call, but I'll be here instead. We are actively campaigning throughout the state. Congratulations to those who are elected to DNC. From Norfolk, I know Diane was elected in the third, and Linwood in the second.
Yep.
And I know you get to that in Barbara. So congratulations to all of you all. And then congratulations to those who are elected yesterday, Andrea and Dr. Gabriel and everyone. Really what we're doing here from our campaign, just, showing Senator Warner is working hard in DC on behalf of, constituents. Two things I'll just note of what Senator Warner is working on in DC. He co-sponsored legislation with Senator Harris regarding the Vote Safe Act, which would expand early voting nationwide. We've already addressed this in Virginia through our General Assembly, but it's something we want to do nationwide, especially while we're with early voting in this pandemic. He's continuing to be an advocate for the Paycheck Security Act, which will protect paychecks and access to health care for workers, for especially those who've been furloughed, up to $90,000 salary. You'll be able to keep your health care with your employer. Additionally, just some other things we're doing. Senator Warner is hosting a weekly town hall on Facebook. We just held one this past Monday on CrowdPack. So feel free to tune in those, and you can ask questions to Senator Warner directly. Also, we are organizing digitally. I'll drop the sign up for that, where you can sign up to participate. There'll be some volunteer opportunities in regards to that. If you all monitored the May elections at all, you would have noticed that cities with higher African-American populations had some of the lower percentage of absentee ballots. So I know specifically Hampton and Newport News in our area. I looked at the numbers just about 30 minutes ago. For Norfolk, they actually did pretty well from what it seems with voting absentee. I think the percentage for mayor was about 59%. In Newport News, it was lower, it's about 39%. That's something we definitely wanted to monitor as we go forward in November. We want to keep people activated and get them in, as much information we can provide about voting absentee, if that's something they need to do. So we do want to outreach to Divine Nine, activists on the ground, civic, organizations, DJs, definitely that can validate our message in the community and already have those relationships. And it seems like, Norfolk is already ahead of the game with that. So definitely we will be connecting with whether it's Betty or Toy or Charlie, anyone, all of you, get with those community organizations also. Just additionally also, we are looking at potential office locations while following the governor's guidance. So I will be reaching back out and to Charlie again in regards to that. But if we will be releasing that information in the near future, and guidance on how we'll operate offices in a pandemic. So just stay tuned to that. Otherwise, if you have any questions, feel free to get with me directly. I think you all know me by now. But I'll drop my information again in the chat if you want to contact me directly. Thanks.
By the way, I'm glad our beards are the same color.
Yeah. I think mine's natural.
I'm ready for the pandemic to end so I can shave. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Let's see if we can wrap up. We got about 15 minutes. All right. Here was where we were going to congratulate all of our elected officials. We know Kenny, Andrea, and
Dr. Gabriel.
Well, she's on the call. Let's go to the I tell you what, let's go to the electoral board, because where are we on the absentees? Because I don't know if Noel is officially accepted yet until we see all the votes. So go ahead, Barbara, Michael.
Charlie, no one is official at this moment in time and will not be official until we certify the votes on Friday. Just to mention that.
And even at that point, it's really not official until the state board certifies our certification.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, but Noelle has a commanding enough margin. I think that she should feel that. I mean, congratulations should come her way, and of course to Kenny and Andrea, who are I think here today. you were asking about absentee. We had a very large number, I think over 8,000 absentee ballots turned in, many of them sort of in a very short time period. At the same time that we were also preparing everything for a June primary election, which really won't affect our party whatsoever in Norfolk, because there are no Democrats that are facing primary challenges. So it's pretty much a Republican primary, but we still have had a lot of things happening at the same time. But Barbara is going to talk more about the comparisons that Toy asked about. But the ballots have been fed through the scanners. We should be certifying the absentee in the next couple of days once we get to that precinct number 49. So
yeah, we
Right,
just
well,
keep fresh. Yeah,
the website has been updated with the absentee count. That is, or at least as official as we can get it. The May turnout was at 10.2%, which is about normal for our May election. However, the absentee turnout was 58%. That is significant. There were 12,000 people that requested absentee ballots, and those were mailed out. However, only 8,000 of them returned a ballot, and then there was, I don't have the final count because they were still being counted, but there was a chunk of them that were rejected for issues primarily on that envelope section where you have to have a witness. We had several, I would say, notable people in the city who simply did not sign that envelope, so their ballot did not count. So you do need to be very careful. Virginia does have a very cumbersome, but I have to say thorough absentee ballot system. There are lots of checks and balances along the way. There may be too many. The process, and in fact, we adjourned our canvass early because we were caught up, and we went down to the absentee ballot room and spent about 4 hours helping everyone count because of this double count process that we have to take every ballot. We have to verify that the ballot came in. We have to give them a number. That number is entered in a book of a printout of everybody who voted or applied for one, and then you take the same printout, but it's a different book, and you put a little red mark that they actually voted. So each person has to be found twice in these two printouts, and they have to be recorded. This is not our process. This is mandated by the state. And I must say, Jamila LaCruz, who's on the state board, also joined us for several hours, and she was absolutely flabbergasted that this is what every locality in Virginia must go through with all of their absentee ballots.
And might I point out, Barbara, that before that point, our staff in the office had to also verify that everything was filled out correctly. There was a whole nother pre-screening process ahead of time that was all completed before Election Day.
Right. We chose not to rent a high-speed scanner. It's a cost of $35,000 to rent for a day. We may be purchasing one for the fall. We do realize November is going to be entirely different, but it takes 12 seconds to scan a ballot, and we had 8,000 of them and 2 scanners. We didn't have a bunch of extra scanners because they were all out at the precinct on Tuesday. And then they have to be, they go back in the cages. So it did take us a little bit of extra time, but we are done, and it's all up on the clerk's, it's all up in the website.
Yeah, I pulled it up. Thank you very much. Before the meeting, it wasn't up there. And Noel at 78.5% of the vote. I unmuted you. I don't know if you want to say anything, but I think 78.5% of the vote, you might want to think it's over. Are you on there, Noel?
I'm here, Charlie. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got like a 4,200 vote lead.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
It's thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. And I hope that you and your families are well right now. It was a long day yesterday. We were out at 5 and stayed in the rain and the wind, and our signs were doing some dancing out there. But we made it through all the way up, and I have to commend Michael and Barbara and the entire election staff for the hard work that they put into preparing for this and really advertising and encouraging folks to vote absentee so that we could try to be as safe as possible. And honestly, everybody who came out of the polls was very impressed. They enjoyed taking the pins and the folders as souvenirs. And
that's right.
And I think that you guys just did the best with the situation that we have at hand. And I hope that November can run as smooth as possible. And I couldn't not forget to mention the incredible support that I have to give thanks to the mayor and to, I know Councilwoman McClellan is on the line, and Delegate Jay Jones, and the entire city council, and Elaine Luria. I see Medea, you're on there. Elaine was very instrumental in making sure that I had support. It was actually bipartisan support, to be honest with you, for this election. And I'm very grateful and appreciative, and it's truly a team effort. With regards to the schools, right now we're just preparing for what does school look like in the coming year. And I know that's the big question that's on everybody's mind. And we're going to take the directives from the Virginia Department of Education and the Department of Health definitely into consideration, and then maybe customize what we do here in Norfolk so that every child, every family is served and has the best opportunity to make the most of this situation. So I'm happy. I'm very excited to continue 4 more years. I thank every single voter who came out and cast their ballot, and those who voted absentee. And I'm really happy to be here tonight because normally I'm not able to join you guys because we have school board meetings on Wednesday. So it's nice to see everybody.
Well, congratulations again. I just wanted to say that in the chat, I put down the website that that George Schaefer makes for us and made for us that has a link on it to our results page for the election. And that's something that's available starting really at like 7 p.m. on election night. So in June, if you want to see which Republicans are winning, you can go right there. But in November, it's very helpful as well. And it breaks it down by precinct, and it also breaks it down by city, and you can also see which precincts have reported, and it's very handy. The media really loves it, and again, if I don't know if George is on the call, but big thanks to him and his office and Cheryl for really helping our elections office in Norfolk be one of the premier, best run and best communicating and best technology, because George is very astute with the technology. So thank you to George and his office.
All right.
And Michael, just a final comment. If anybody didn't know, Rodney Jordan did best Billy Cook, 29% to 24%, sort of. So it was very close until the absent. In fact, it was nearly tied until the absentees came in.
Looks like he won according to that by about 600 votes. So
yeah, 559.
Yeah.
So Barbara, even though that hasn't been certified yet, is it okay to post that publicly because it's on the?
Oh, it's on. Yeah, it's already public. It's on the website.
Yeah,
it's public.
It's unofficial results, Betty, but that's what we have to say until we certify. And really, even after we certify, it's unofficial until the state certifies our certification. But votes totals don't really change a whole lot. There are a few provisionals. I don't have that number in my head.
91.
91. So that wouldn't, of course, change the percentage very much.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
And
well,
Charlie,
And by the way, Charlie, nice beard.
Yeah, well, like
I like the facial hair too. I think it's awesome.
it's going away as soon as this quarantine thing is over. All right, we got like two minutes to get to the finish line, so we can finish at 8:30. As you can see, Norfolk is represented in the second CD. Linwood Fisher, Linwood on the call. Congratulations, you're a delegate, a Biden delegate going to Milwaukee, if there is such a thing. Barbara, congratulations on the second congressional district elector. We hope you will be not a faithless elector. And of course, Diane Kaufman, thank you everybody who supported Diane. She was top vote getter in the female category. So thanks everybody. Now we just got to figure out if we're going to Milwaukee.
I think you're going online.
Yeah. Well, I guess that that'll save us some money. More money we can send to Biden, I guess, and Elaine. All right, we got our coffee. I'm still working on a guest for the coffee/breakfast on June 6th. We're working on it. Hopefully it'll be a great guest. And with that, any member concerns so we can wrap it up in a minute here?
Yeah, Nancy Guy's on the line. I think she has an announcement.
Oh, Nancy.
Oh, right. I had sent you a text or a comment. You could have announced it. I've given up on any chance of ever having a real town hall, so I will be having a virtual town hall via Zoom on June 2nd at 7:30 p.m. A lot of you will probably be getting emails on it if you're in my NGP account. It's also, you can get the information, you can RSVP and get the link from my Facebook, my Guy for Delegate Facebook account, or my website. And I will send it on to, I guess, Charlie, and if you want to
send it on so we can blast it out.
If you have any questions or want them all over, of course, I addressed the committee at the last breakfast, so most of you probably got your questions answered, but if you want to hear me talk some more, you have the chance.
All right.
Thank you, Nancy.
8:30 on the nose. If there's no more questions, we're ending this thing exactly on time.
Okay.
I have one question for Michael.
Yeah, hold on. I do have a couple of questions in the blue hands. I missed them. But go ahead. Who was that?
Camille.
Yeah. Okay, Camille. Yeah, you're on there.
If you voted absentee, how do you know whether your vote counted or not, since there were 4,000 that didn't? Is there a way to find out?
No, yes, you will be notified that your vote did not count and the reason. Yes.
And there were not 4,000 that did not count. There were there were 4,000 that were mailed out and not returned, I think.
Oh, okay. That
yeah.
That's better.
I think the ones that did not count, it's a very small number. I think it's I don't know the number, but seeing the stacks of things, I think it's under 50 that were not counted for some specific reason, like the address didn't match, or there was some technical state law reason why it could not count.
Right. Yeah, because it's important to educate people if Thank you.
And sure. Tim Rothgeb, you had your hand up. You still got a question? Nope. All right, everybody, stay safe.
I am muted. Okay, I was muted. Charlie.
Yes, sir.
My question was the same one as Camille just asked, was how do we tell if our vote counted or not? So.
Yeah. All right. I know at some point it will show up in the van as in voting history, but I think that's down the road a month or two or something like that. But so, yeah. But yeah, tough time. We just got to figure out how to get to the finish line in November. It's a difficult time, but by God, we'll get there. I'll dance through I don't know what kind of pandemic to go vote against that orange monstrosity. So
yes, indeed.
Hopefully we can get the rest of Norfolk to consider. So all right, we're going to keep trying to build our little grassroots army. Thank you, everybody. I love you. I miss you. I'm giving you a virtual hug right now. And hopefully we got some feelers out. Hopefully we'll have a blockbuster coffee guest on June 6th. Stay tuned. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Guard that potato, Charlie.
Over my No dead hands. Come
Good
on.
night.
Mr. Potato Head, his new nickname.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Charlie.
Hi.
Okay.